we are very privileged to welcome Mr. So Chin Heng, right? You all may not know, you all should know Mr. So Chin Heng by now. He's a mega guru, not even just a guru, a mega guru. So must welcome all the likes. Okay, now I'm gonna turn on my Facebook page. Okay, yes, hello Premium Mall, and I'm going to go live here as well. All right, cool. Okay, we shall wait for the audience to come in. Okay. Hello Facebook. Okay, good to see everybody. Today we are very privileged to have my Sifu here to share with you all his super kung fu. Okay, yes. Please everybody give a huge blast of like. Okay, to show a great support. Hello Eric, good to see you. Okay, yes. Must say hello, Mr. So. Yes, that's the most important one. Me not important today. Okay. Hello, Facebook. Yes. Okay. Yes, Billy. Thank you. Okay. Yes. To invite a mega guest like this, okay, 钱请不到的, okay, yeah, got money also cannot, yeah, okay. Mr. So is SOH. Yes. Yes. Hello, Michael. Good to see you. Esther. Good to see you. Thank you, Esther. You always do a nice like and share. Okay. All right, good. Okay, so now we have our fans streaming in. Yes, Peggy, good to see you too. Okay, everybody give a huge blast of light to welcome Mr. So Chin Heng, please. Yes. Okay. You all may not know, but Mr. So Chin Heng has been my mentor for 20 years. 20 years. Okay, 20 years. Okay, everything 99% of things I learn from him. Okay, so you all learn from me, so therefore, if some of you all call me Sifu, which I humbly feel very paiseh, but you should call him Si Gong. So although he looks young, but he's not young. Yeah, Mr. So Agnes, this is Mr. So. Okay, yes. So maybe Mr. So is here. Chin Heng can say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody, fans of Premium Mo and Lu Qingchuan. Happy to join you all here this afternoon. And 1965, hello.
Yes, okay, thank you, yeah. Okay, yes. Okay, remember, Drew, I need everybody to hit like, lots of like, okay? Amy, good to see you too, yes. Sifu and Sikong. And they say Sifu and Sikong, yes, okay. All right, good, okay, good. Thank you all the likes, okay? Today, let me first give a little bit of profile of Mr. So Chin Heng. So Mr. So Chin Heng has an illustrious career in the public sector. Okay, he started off as a civil servant in the admin service, served many different ministries, and then in his last appointment for many years, he was with the CPF board. Okay, and he was a deputy CEO of CPF board. Okay, so the number 2 man, toilet one. So before you all think I invite some stranger here, okay, Juju, good to see you. This was a deputy CEO of CPF board. Okay, he just retired this year or last year?
Last year.
Last year. Okay. Yes. The sound is on and off. Okay. Michael, is the sound quality okay, or sound quality okay on YouTube? Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. So Mr. So Chin Heng retired so early, okay? Retired very early so that he want to maximize his life. You should ask him why he retired so early, okay? He retired early, and then and now he has got a lot of ECA right now, and in fact, very importantly is that he is serving in a few positions where he contribute to the society a lot. Okay, break up often. Okay, sound. Wait, let me see. Okay, sound on and off. Okay. Hey, I don't know. I sound no good. Okay. You know what, guys? I'll be frank with you. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do on YouTube. Sounds okay to me. Mine is good. Sound normal still. Is some people okay, some people not okay. I don't know why. Okay. Yes. So Mr. So Chin is the MD. Is the MD of a Hope Center?
Executive Director.
Executive Director of Hope Center. Okay. Yes. Wait. I just want to check. Everybody, about 80% of people, the sound is okay. I think they close and come back again. Okay. With 10 second, 3 second breakup. Okay, let's do a last sound check again before I decide whether to turn on and off again. How many of you are okay? If the sound is okay, please say I'm okay. Okay. Facebook is okay. Thank you. Okay. And sound is okay. Sound is okay. Okay. For those who are not okay on YouTube, jump to Premium More Facebook page. Most of people are okay there. The Premium More Facebook pages are okay. Okay. So Premium More MLL, one word, put one word and jump over there. Okay. So Junjie, you may have to go to. For those issues, just refresh YouTube. I think about 80% of people are okay. And for those who are not okay, you either refresh your YouTube or you go to Premium More Facebook page. It's the same thing. I got 3 camera here live. It's very 夸张, okay? All right, good, okay. Sound is okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. All right, good. Okay. So today the topic, okay, is a special topic that I feel that I'm not qualified to share with you. That's why I invited expert over here. Okay. Yes. So you refresh and it's okay. Okay. So just for those people who have a problem, just refresh your YouTube and it's okay. That's what everybody. But there's one thing everybody do right now since everybody is coming. Okay. Huge blast of like, especially on YouTube. Okay. Please click like. Okay. To welcome Mr. So Chin Heng. Okay. Mr. So Chin Heng. I say again. 你有钱都请不到的 okay? Yes. It's 20 years mentoring me. Never asked for a single cent. Okay. Yes. So I feel so paiseh that today I have to give back to society. Yeah. So thank you. Everybody give a blast of light for you. Okay. Thank you. All right. Good. Okay. So today the topic is about creating wealth or managing our finances in a high interest environment. Now this is a new kind of environment. I never lived this kind of life before, this magnitude. Okay, so there's many implications to our CPF, many implications housing loan, many implications to our investments, many implications to our spending, property market, whatsoever. There are tons of questions around. Okay, this one. So I will urge everybody to ask your questions. In case we don't answer a question, keep asking. Okay, keep asking. Once we stop. Once Mr. So finish, we ask. You just ask again because the questions come out very fast. So I sometimes cannot remember all of them. Okay, but maybe I kick off. So this will be like a fireside chat, Q&A. Okay, remember, don't paiseh. Let's juice him dry. Okay, what he's juicy right now is his brains. Okay, very difficult to get expert like him. So please juice him dry. 那榨干他来甘蔗 those sugarcane machine, please juice him dry. Okay. Yes. Charlene, good to see you. Esther, good to see you. Okay, good. All right, good. Okay, maybe I ask one question first, Mr. So. Is this okay? So right now it is a high interest rate environment. Okay. Yes. So what are you doing to your own money? I can give some tips. You do, we follow. Right. He do, we follow, right? Yes. Okay, come.
Okay, before I start with the answer to the questions, just say I'm happy to be here. Since Lou asked me and I'm able to make it, I'm happy to join in. Except that whenever he talk about me, the hairs of my hairs all come up and cringe.
Why?
He always super exaggerated.
I haven't even finished my description of you. Okay, yes.
Okay, so anyway, try to answer the question. What am I doing with the money? First, since a lot of the things Lou mentioned about CPF, I just turned 55 this year, and so
he's older than me. I know it doesn't look like way, but he's older than me.
So basically, what I did is first don't withdraw the CPF. I have no need to withdraw my CPF, and it's earning good interest rate, so don't withdraw the CPF. And second, then you know, when you're 55, if you have enough money, you will find that you have the full retirement sum in your retirement account, which I have, but I also top it up to the enhanced retirement sum, so that in future when I need the money or when the payout starts, I can have more. But that was in June when I turned 55. I would say that actually the environment just in the space of a few months, especially the interest rate environment, has changed very drastically.
Yes.
And if I were to turn 55 in
Now.
November or in December, actually I think I would do things slightly differently.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, just to answer a quick question, Karine. This is the ex-deputy CEO of CPF board. Okay, Tua Liap come in. Tua Liap come in. I know we have a few questions. I will continue with your. So how would you do differently?
Yeah. So first, what has changed, right? So I think if you look back in June this year, then it's probably more or less as far as the interest rate is concerned, more or less what we have been very familiar with for the past maybe two decades or so, i.e. high low interest rate, fairly stable, perhaps a little bit the rise, but we are talking about still very low, almost zero, at most creeping up to 1% kind of things. But wow,
Within
just in
a
the
few
space
months.
of a few months, now we are looking at 3, 4, 5%. So and that makes a lot of difference. So the interest rate has changed, and then if I were to be turning 55 anytime soon, or November, December, then I would think then basically it's the issue of uh, the opportunity cost to me. If I have funds to deploy, then do I put it in the CPF? Do I put it in the retirement account? I would say fundamentally the issues are the same, but because of the interest rate environment change, and now arguably you can get a higher interest rate than what is the CPF is paying on the ordinary account, or even in some sense on the retirement account. So perhaps there may be even better opportunities outside of the CPF right now. But of course, just as the interest rate has changed suddenly, it's also possible that it may change again in future, and the CPF interest rate may well become more attractive again.
Okay, we will go specific into areas. I already see questions coming up. Please continue to ask this question. I'm taking photos of the questions so that I can ask. Okay. Siu Xin, good to see you. And whoa, who is this? Backpacker Gallery, good to see you too. Okay. I think the first question is right now with money that so there are two buckets of money we're talking about, right? One is CPF OA. The other one is cash. Okay. So, what do you suggest we do with our money right now? Buy a house, buy share, put in bank, put in fixed D, buy treasury, SSB, and so on. So many options. OCBC 360. I got, so many options right now. What do we do? What would you suggest?
Wow, just this question alone will take days to answer. I think it really depends on your what's your needs, where you think your money should go into, and really it's not possible to compare to tell everybody whether you should buy stocks or buy shares. But if you look within, I think generally we assuming there's no specific needs, and we are talking about monies that are for investments, and then generally I would suggest that we even think about having at least like two pots of money that you use for investment. One is what you call a safe pot, and one is one where you take more risk. Then if you're talking about let's say cash or CPF or ordinary account, then you are talking about the money that is in your safe pot that is relatively low or no risk in terms of investment, and then whether you can make a better use of it compared to what you have in your bank account or the ordinary account. So for bank account, I think it's quite a no-brainer. The interest rates in the bank account continue to be low, almost zero.
You're talking about savings account, right?
Like bank
Not
savings
FD,
account. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So because of the rapidly rising interest rates, and what you find that there's actually a lot of relatively safe options out there now that you can deploy your savings accounts money. So I think T-bill is a rage now. You find a lot of banks are offering fixed deposits which are close to T-bill rates. So these are options you can consider. Things like the OCBC and all these other 360 and all these other similar type of accounts. They also fairly attractive and even offer higher rates than fixed deposit or T-bill rates, but they will have the different conditions that you have to make, 2 conditions, 3 conditions. So you have to study them and see whether you can navigate them and whether you can keep up the changes that they are making also lah.
I think the key question that we have really is specific to CPF. Now there are 2 broad strategy, or rather 3 broad strategy, or 4. Number 1 is don't touch your OA, just leave it there. Second is use your OA to invest in something. The something can be two-pronged. Number 1 is fixed interest asset or instrument. The other one is stocks and shares. Okay. And the third one is if you are 55 and above, should you take out and go and deploy in those higher yielding one more than 3-4% whatsoever. So principally, maybe you share with us what's your thought process.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, each of them is quite complex. So
yes.
Remind me if I
sure.
Forget it.
Sure.
So maybe talk the safe pot first. Do you take them out and try to invest in something higher? Then actually for both cash and OA, the principle is quite simple.
Yep.
Can you get a higher interest rate compared to what you have? So for cash, because the savings deposit is almost zero, and there are many higher interest options out there, then I think if you have no need for those monies, then consider T-bills, consider the FDs or similar safe options.
So between T-bill and FD, which one will you pick?
T-bills is
So for the sake of for people here, can you explain what is T-bill? Not everybody knows what is T-bill.
Okay, T-bills, or called the treasury bill, basically is a government trying to borrow money, right, from you, and then I suppose it's actually, you can think of it somewhat like a fixed deposit. Fixed deposit is like banks trying to borrow money from you. So in exchange for borrowing monies, then they have to pay you an interest rate, right? Interest. So then, do you lend to banks through placing an FD, or do you lend to government through placing a T-bill? So then you have to look at which is riskier, right? Is a bank riskier or government riskier? Both are in general safe, but arguably government will be safer.
No, Temasek lose money in FTX. Where got safe?
Temasek is not quite the government.
I never see Singapore government. I never see a bank lose money in crypto yet. I see government lose money in crypto. So anyway, okay. Jokes aside, So what you're saying is that government actually supposed to be safer, but banks is quite safe also lah. Actually, I don't know rates right now. Are they comparable? Are they comparable right now in the returns?
Banks have been rolling out the promotions, and the fixed deposits are quite attractive, slightly lower in general than T-bills. So I was saying, so you have to look at the risk profile, and I think the investment world out there would say that the government is safer than banks. Especially the Singapore government, one of the few AAA rated government in the world. And so, see, typically, if you invest in something that is safe, then you cannot expect that higher return, right? But actually, in a lot of cases, if you look back 3-4 months ago, you invest in a T-bill, you get a higher return than you invest in the fixed deposit. And actually, it's still the same currently. although the margin has dropped. So T-bills so offers a very attractive proposition, even compared to banks. You would think that if a risk profile is higher, then the return, you ought to be getting a higher return from a fixed deposit than from T-bills. But actually, it's the other way around.
Yeah. So what's the difference between T-bill and SSB?
Oh, okay.
Who got this problem? I also don't understand. Yeah.
Maybe before talking about SSB, which is a bit of a special sort of a product created by the government, talk about T-bills and Singapore government bonds. Essentially, they are the same. It's all government, Singapore government borrowing money from institutions, from retail investors. But the duration is different. So the T-bills refers to borrowings which are shorter in duration, 6 months or a year, or even have intermediate durations in between. Whereas government bonds refers to longer duration, 2 years, can be 10 years, 20 years, and so on. Whereas Singapore government bonds or Singapore savings bonds, and it's a special sort of product that the government introduced, and unlike the T-bills or the Singapore government bonds, which are sort of like traded in the market, you can buy or sell those products. In the case of a Singapore savings bond, SSB, then it's not traded through the market. So and it has a very attractive feature that should you want to redeem the SSB before the 10 years for which it was designed for, you can do so without losing your capital. So you earn the interest for the duration that you hold the SSB, and then if you redeem it, then you get back your capital.
Okay, but the SSB interest not so high as T-bill right now.
Yeah, now at the moment it's not so high. It's sort of like the average out over a longer duration, so it doesn't capture the latest rates which are as high currently lah.
No good. Yeah. Okay. So good. Okay. I will proceed now to answer question. You can answer me faster because about 20 questions already. Okay. Let me try to answer. Let me get the questions. Okay. So since the interest rate, so Susan asked this. Okay. Since the interest rate is so high in the bank, should we withdraw money from CPF to put in the bank? Withdraw and put in the bank.
So it depends on what you mean by withdraw. If you're above 55, you can withdraw and the money come out in cash, and then of course you can then use cash to invest in the fixed deposit. However, why do you need to do so? You can also invest your OA money directly into fixed deposits, and I think at least one bank I read recently have already offered that.
OCBC, I think so.
I think so. So you can do that. You don't need to withdraw. Of course, if you are below 55, then it is this route lah. That you can then use your OA monies and then buy a fixed deposit with the bank that offers fixed deposit with a CPF option, and then you just get the FD rate through the CPF investment scheme.
Okay. So next question, Mr. So, how early should we plan for retirement with the current increasing living costs?
As early as possible.
And what do you mean by that?
From the time you start work, you should be thinking about it. If you can start earlier, even better. If you have children, try to inculcate them financial literacy, get them into the habit of saving, and later on maybe even learning about investments and insurance and things like that is a very important life skill to have. Talking about this topic, one of the group of people I really want to try and pass this message is the group of people who are still students, maybe in the final stage of their life as a student, about to graduate in a few months' time, whether from university,
who got poly student or poly children or university children, please take note now.
I think this is a very critical life stage that the person is in, because very shortly then the student will become a worker, right? When you graduate, then go into the workforce, a lot of them will become then full-time employees, and then there's a very significant change in their life station. A very significant change also in terms of the finances. For most students, they live on an allowance, maybe from their parents, or some of them they take some part-time job, tuition or whatever. And the allowance typically is not a lot lah, unless you're born with a silver spoon. It's just enough to make by. So you learn to live with that. Then when you become a full-time worker, then for quite a lot of people, it's a big jump in terms of from the amount of allowance you get to the salary you get. Then what you do with your first paycheck, then is very, very important because it will recur every month. Next month you'll get your second paycheck. Next month you get your third paycheck, right? So how you spend your first paycheck, it will then make actually a lot of difference in terms of your financial future for the long haul. And I would very much like to encourage students out there or parents with students out there to try to live, even when you're working, continue to live as if you're a student. If you manage to do so, I think you will find that you will have a lot of money left over, savings left over, and then how you deploy those savings and you do it over many months will make a tremendous difference to your financial future.
This is the first quote of the day. Make sure that your children, when they start working, continue to live as if they are a student. Okay, first quote of the day. Very, very important. Okay, so you all agree with that? Okay, so Anna asked, Mr. So, would you top up to ERS if you turn 55 in December 2022? Which basically means that in a new high interest environment, does our RA strategy, our retirement account strategy changes, our CPF Life strategy changes, okay? Maybe you can take a view on that.
Short answer is no, or not yet. Why so? I mentioned that there are now, if you look at products of a comparable risk, there are now some products that offer higher than 4%, marginal, but higher. So it's more attractive. However, whether it's sufficient, right? Whether the margin of difference is sufficient to make you put it in those products instead of the CPF retirement account, that's debatable, right? It's not very significant. But the difference is that, of course, if you put in the retirement account, people like to say the CPF is locked up. It's true that there is some restriction in how you can use the CPF, your monies, if you put in the retirement account. If you are 55, the money you put in, you start to get it out in streams from 65. So it's a long period of time. Whereas if you can put it in T-bill or whatever that earns marginally higher than 4%, but you can get the money back in 6 months or a year. So if I were to turn 55 this next month, I would preserve my flexibility, put the money in those products out there, then see how the market pans out. And I always have that flexibility to put it in the retirement account when let's say the T-bills mature, and then I think it's good. The interest rate environment is a bit more stable, and it may still be worthwhile then to consider putting back into the retirement account. So in essence, there's no hurry to put it into the retirement account. Ultimately, the key issue is what is the interest rate that you're earning on this pot of money that you're talking about.
Okay. This is very interesting question. This Long Shin Rom, okay, he's a Malaysian with a CPF account, right? Suppose it's a PR or something like that. Should he withdraw all and put in Singapore bank? Okay. Does it make a difference whether he's a Malaysian or Singapore? No. How much more can I earn on Singapore 12-month deposit? Okay, I think maybe just. I think the key thing is that does it make a difference whether he's a Malaysian?
No, why should it make a difference?
Yeah.
And I mentioned earlier, you don't have to withdraw physically in cash. You can invest under the CPF investment scheme, invest in the fixed deposit or other even the treasury bills. That's allowed. The only I suppose inconvenience at the moment is that if you are trying to invest your CPF ordinary account into treasury bills, you can't do it online yet lah. So you have to pay a visit to the banks, and that may cause a bit of an inconvenience.
Okay, good idea to buy corporate bonds now, UOB, DBS, or other bank bonds.
Then
Corporate bonds.
that's a different issue already. Then you're talking about investment in, you're investing in something that is a higher risk, because corporate bonds, and you have to, there's a higher risk than say government for lending money to the government. So you have to see whether you are comfortable with the risk that you're taking. As Lou say, Singapore banks are relatively safe, but you can't
Singapore bank
assume there is a zero risk.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I'm not. I'm. This is my own humble opinion. That Singapore bank also very safe lah. That's my opinion. Okay. Yes. Okay. The next question is. This question is answered already. No. Do you foresee the FD rate, continue to rise in Singapore? Because the US interest rate now is continuing to rise, What do you think? What do you think is the trend? And if you think that it's going to rise, should we hold back and wait until the interest rate is higher, then we go and invest?
I think generally the general expectation is interest rates continue to rise, and should do so for quite some time. Actually, we ought to take the perspective that the very low, almost 0% interest rate that we've been experiencing for the last 2 decades or so, it's actually, if you look at the history of interest rate, it's actually more of an abnormality. And rates
how do we end up that way? How do we end up a zero interest rate for so long?
Long story, many government printing money and so on. But really, for much of the history, interest rates are not so low, and that we prepared for rates that are higher, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on %. So I think it will still persist for quite a while. So the question of whether you would hold back, or you would put the money now in the T-bills or FD, then I suppose the duration factor is an important one. If you're talking about, say, a 6-month T-bill, which is very popular now, and MAS issues that every fortnightly, then you're only talking about a 6 months duration, right? After 6 months, you get the money back, and then you can decide what to do with it. So if you hold back there, then if you hold back buying the T-bills, then you lose that, you lost that opportunity cost. So a sensible approach then would be to say, if you have an amount of money that you say you want to invest in the T-bills, then I would say spread it out over, and then invest a small amount with each tranche lah. So because it's 6 months, and the government and the MAS issue it every 2 weeks, so it's like two tranches a month on average. I would say then divide up this amount into 12 parts. Then with every tranche, then you invest one 12th of the money. Right? Then at the end of the 6 months, you get back your first tranche of the money, and you can reinvest it again.
Good idea, right? But if I invest big amount, the interest is higher. If I invest small amount, the interest is lower. Then I lugi, right?
But you never know what the exact interest rate would be. Right? If you look at the last 2 T-bill tranche, the latest one was 4%. The one before that was 4.19%, I think.
Yeah.
Talking about the 6 months T-bill. So.
Sure.
Well, everybody expected, I think most people expect that the latest one ought to be higher than 4.19%. It turned out to be not that way. So sometimes the markets turn out differently, with the T-bill, with how it works, it depends on all the bidding. So it depends a lot on the demand and supply forces.
Okay. Actually, a lot of people, including myself, okay? How do you actually invest in T-bill? Nobody knows how. I mean, there's some people here don't know how to invest in T-bill.
Okay, easiest is do it online. I think you can do it through the ATM. You can do it through the internet banking. It's fairly simple. Of course, the UI for the different bank apps will be different, but I think there's one which there's an option that allows you to invest in the government, Singapore government securities generally, and then you choose whether it's a T-bill or Singapore government bonds.
Don't go and choose the wrong one. Your one high return, don't go and pick the SSB.
So if you are talking about T-bill, you choose a T-bill, and they will ask you few basic questions. Are you a Singapore citizen or foreigner? Then I think one important question they ask you is whether you want to make a competitive bid or a non-competitive bid. So for newbies for people who are not familiar, then a non-competitive bid is easier. Non-competitive bid means you don't decide, you don't try to make a calculation or guess on what the interest rate you will bid for. You just follow You just follow the process, follow the rest who make investment, who make the bids. Then at the end of the process, there will be you call it a cut-off yield, interest rate, and then that's the rate that if you make a non-competitive bid, you will get lah. But the thing is that I think the MAS for each tranche reserve 40% of the amounts for non-competitive bid. So it means that if the total amount that total amounts that is under the non-competitive bid is less than 40%, which was the case for a lot of the tranches except the last one, then the people will get the full amount that they applied for. But if the demand is much higher, then you'll be prorated. I think that's what happened in the last tranche. And so generally people who invested and placed a non-competitive bid, they only get about half of what they applied for. So that's a non-competitive bid is simpler, but you face this issue that if it's too popular, you may not get the full allotment.
Why don't they give everybody? We give money back, government don't want.
Well, the MAS have to decide how much they want to borrow, so they set that as parameters, and of course then it depends on the amount of demand for those T-bills. So moving on, if you are trying to make a competitive bid, then you have to put in a figure, an interest rate that you think is you want to submit, and if the cut-off yield is higher than what you bid for, then you will get what you apply for in full. Whereas if the bid that you submitted is higher than the cut-off yield, basically you get the zero. It's essentially like the COE system. I think people probably more familiar with the COE system. If you want to bid for a COE, you put in a price, right? And if the actual COE amount turns out to be lower than what you bid for, you get a COE. If your bid is lower than the actual amount, you don't get it. So it works the same way, except it's the reverse lah. In the case of the COE, you're trying to get the COE. So the higher you bid, the better the chance you get.
Okay.
Whereas in the case of a competitive bid, you are trying to borrow from the government. So from the government's perspective, if they can borrow at a lower rate, the better, right? So the lower the rate you offer, the better your chance of getting.
So should we bid competitive or non-competitive?
Well, then I would say in general, if you're a newbie, you don't understand the intricacies of a competitive bidding, yet you still want to be involved in it, want to get a T-bill, then simpler is to go for non-competitive, except that
So
probably
whatever
now,
they give, you take.
Yeah, probably now based on the demand, you probably expect that you will not get the full amount that you apply for. You'll be prorated. But if you think you're a bit more familiar with the interest rate environment, you can have a good sense of what the interest rate will be like, then and you want to get the full allocation that you are applying for, then you can try a competitive bid.
So the switching a little bit to investment. Now, if we take a step back, okay, now got so many competing attractive investment. So number one is I can put money in SA, of course, from OA to SA. I can put money into T-bills and government bonds. But actually, this is where Mr. Lu always tell himself, I'm going to invest in S&P 500. You know, S&P 500 over time will give some phenomenal return, right? Now, what's your opinion on this, right? And if there's an opinion on allocation, how should people allocate? You know, I think it's not so binary where yes or no, but how should we all allocate our investments, right? Maybe you can give a view on this.
Actually, regardless of the environment, the current environment or the previous lower interest rate environment, I think it's a very important issue once you consider how much of your money should be in that safe pot and how much is in the risk pot. And I think the investment will call this your strategic asset allocation. So it's an important issue to consider, and you have to consider many different factors, including whether you are at the accumulation stage of your life or the decumulation stage where you are needing the money, right? So whether it's a high interest rate or low interest rate environment, generally, right, your strategic asset allocation should be decided more on the fundamental factors rather than on how the market is performing.
Which means?
It means based on how much risk you are prepared to take. Whether you're the type that can't sleep well if the market tanks, say 10% or even 20%, right? If you are that type, you probably should have a lower risk profile. You should have more of your money in safer instruments rather than the risky investment. And also, like I said, depending on other factors like your age, right? So that strategic allocation, asset allocation, should be fairly stable. Like some would then translate into, say, 50% bonds, 50% equity, or 30-70 or 70-30, that kind of thing. However, within that strategic allocation, then you can have some allowance for market timing. If you take a view, then so plus minus that band, you can then place your bets. So if you believe that say the S&P 500 or other markets are going up, then you may want to have slightly more in risky investments than what your strategic allocation calls for.
So another area that people are asking is fixed D foreign denominated in foreign currency. I think specifically US dollar. Yeah, I think that's the one that came out. A lot of people, a lot of banks are encouraging. What do you think of USD fixed D? Because the interest rate is higher than the Singapore one.
I think you can't look at the just the interest rate, although it may be higher. If you are investing in a foreign currency fixed deposit, then of course there's an element of currency risk that comes into play. So you may get a higher interest rate, but if you're trying to bring it back to the Singapore dollars after that, then it depends on what is the exchange rate then, and you may be better off, you may not be better off. So the currency in risk is a big area by itself. And generally, I would suggest that for people who are not so technically savvy in this area,
don't touch.
Try to avoid it.
Yeah, don't touch. My can, you know, can get burned one. Yes. So do you think US dollar go down, go up?
I don't know.
See, expert like him, you know, Anni Gawa also don't know. Makes you all think you all know. Yeah. So I also don't dare touch. Yeah, exchange rate risk is very, very high. Yeah, very difficult to predict. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's a good question. Let me go to the next question. Okay. Too many questions.
While Lou is looking for the question, maybe I just try to go back to some of the questions I remember, which I didn't quite cover. I think Lou mentioned that the SSB rates are lower than the T-bills, so no good. I went back to defer, right? So while the rates is lower than the T-bills, as I said, SSB has this very useful feature where you can redeem anytime you want without facing any loss of your capital.
T-bill?
T-bill is traded in the market, so it depends on what is the market price when you sell. And I think generally the T-bills is quite illiquid, so it's maybe even difficult to sell. So when you invest in T-bill, you should be thinking in terms of holding it to maturity lah. So SSB then because of this feature, I think it plays a very useful role as an emergency fund. It's always good for every one of us to have an emergency fund. You never know what sort of emergencies may happen, for which then you may need money. So although you put in SSB, you have a lower rate, but if you use it to serve as an emergency fund, should the emergency arise and you need the funds, then you can redeem it, and within quite a short space of time, within a month or so, you can get the money back. So it serves a useful function.
Okay. Would it be worthwhile to buy T-bills on the secondary market?
Well, then you have to go and join it's like putting it in trying to buy a stock and shares in the market over the exchange, and then you have to run the liquidity issues. I think generally it's not very common, not very popular, unless you're an institutional investor.
Yeah, okay. Okay, switching a little bit now. Now the interest rate is rising and rising. I talk about it in one of the talks, but I think it's important to hear from a super expert like you. CPF interest rate will go up or not? Yeah, every interest rate is going up right now. When are we going to see the CPF interest rate going up? Yeah, your SA, your RA, your OA, your MA, right? Should go up already, right?
So this is a open policy issue, as in the government has put out its policy openly. The interest rates, the CPF interest rates, is formula driven. So of course it depends on how the parameters are worked out. The ordinary account interest rates is based on the savings rate, and I think 3-month fixed deposit rate in the ratio of 20/80, I think. So then you...
Which one 80, which one 20?
I believe it's a fixed deposit that's
higher, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's if the calculated rate turn out to be higher than 2.5, then you get a higher rate. If it's lower, then there's a government guarantee of 2.5%, so you get 2.5%. Whereas for the other accounts, the special account, retirement, and the Medisave account, it is based on the 10-year Singapore government bond rate, a 12-month moving average, and then there's an additional 1 percentage point on top of that. So if the 12-month Singapore government bond rate then on a moving average basis move to above 3%, then the SA, RA, and MA rate will then go above 4%. Otherwise, it remains at 4%.
So you think will or not?
Don't know.
政府人员 or ex 政府人员 always don't dare to give commitment one. I think SA will go up. OA, the formulas, well, the one the big gap, very difficult to go up. Yeah. So and I think I don't know which the promotion rates are actually very high right now, but I got a feeling the government don't pick the promotion rate. Yeah. But anyway, okay. So next one.
If I may just jump in, I think rather than looking at the issue of why government doesn't change its interest rate, I would urge people to look from this perspective that the CPF interest rate system, and I'm saying that not because I'm previously from the CPF board, but it's a very good system because even if the rates are lower than what is out there in the market, it provides a very good fallback option. That should the rate outside turn out to be less favorable, you can always bring the money back to the CPF and then get the CPF rates. Minimally is 2.5% for OA or 4% for the rest of the account. It's far superior than what you have in the bank as a savings deposit. So that is a very good feature. So you have that flexibility to take it out if it works in your favor, and you have the flexibility to put it back in if the rates the CPF rates are in your favor.
Okay. Shall we switch a little bit on this question of housing loan? So in the past, it makes absolute sense not to redeem your housing loan. because the interest rate is so low outside, and it also makes sense to use cash to pay, right? Because your CPF is earning 2.5% inside, and then your cash is earning almost kosong, one big fat zero. But now different. Now the housing loan rate is now at 4.5%, and your CPF is only yielding 2.5% and so on, right? But this may be a short-term thing. I redeem already. In 1 year, this whole thing changed. Walao, I lose money. So what's your wisdom in this thing? What should we do now?
Oh, I think this is a very important issue. Housing loan rate
Hey,
of
give like leh, walao eh. Don't put me paiseh in front of my seafood. Give like on YouTube and Facebook. Yes.
so housing loan rate of say 4% compared to a housing loan rate of 1%. It means you're paying 4 times more in terms of the interest cost for the servicing. So it can make a lot of difference in terms of your mortgage payment. So for those of us who managed to lock in fixed rate mortgages, right, you should consider yourself very fortunate.
Lucky heng
Yeah, so I would seriously urge you all to think through longer term, right? If you have a fixed rate mortgage, then when you are within that lock-in period, then there's no problem, right? Be grateful for that and enjoy the low interest rate that you're paying for this fixed rate mortgage. And then if you have spare money, then within this period, then try to get higher interest rates for it. However, I would say you got to think very carefully when your fixed lock-in period is coming to an end or has ended. Then you got to prepare for it, and then that if you try to refinance your mortgage, then you have to expect that you'll be paying much higher interest rates. So I would suggest that you consider paying off the loan, or if you can't pay off the full amount, at least pay off partially. Try to reduce your outstanding mortgage under the refinance loan as much as possible to reduce your interest rate.
But what if in 1 year this whole thing reverts back to usual world?
Well, then you can remortgage if it turns out the way.
That means
which I think
take money out.
highly unlikely.
But which one is highly unlikely?
That the interest rate environment will change to become like what we have been experiencing in the past 20 years.
Okay, so this is where my next question is. A lot of people are asking, so Mr. So, what's your best view of where the interest rate will go? Right? Is it how high will high? Is it like that then flat, or like that then come down, or is it a little bit then flat? That kind of thing. So, what's your best view? Yeah.
The Federal Reserve has been raising interest rate. There's no signs that it's ending. Although I think maybe after a couple more rates, then it will probably start to taper and stagnate. But I think over the longer period, we should be expecting far higher interest rate than the almost zero interest rate that we have been experiencing for the past 20 years or so. Those were, you can say, those are gone by the days.
Abnormal years. So your view is that a moderate to high interest rate environment would be there to stay for a while.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Listen, okay, a moderate to high interest rate environment would likely stay for a while. Okay, yes. So in next, so which also means that the CPF interest rate will rise. Okay, never mind. Okay, you don't comment. Yeah. Something about CPF board policy again. This thing called special account shielding, right? Okay, special account shielding, everybody promoting it like crazy. So right now, what do you think? Government, there's some hints out there in the media that government may stop it. It's a loophole, right? Government may stop it. Yeah. What do you think of this? People are asking.
I'm not in a position to comment on the CPF board or government policy, but that's just how I mentioned about that if I were going to turn 55 next month, then I would do it differently from what I did like 4 or 5 months ago. Then in a sense it applies to this issue also. It's an issue of interest rate that you could get, and even if you want to shield your SA, there is a little rush to put the money back into the RA after the shielding. So, and effectively, if you let's say use your SA to buy T bonds, T bills, you are effectively shielding that from being swept into the retirement account.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay. So next question. Are the T bills investment taxable?
No.
It's very good, right? No taxable. But whatever you make them must all go back to CPF if you use CPF money.
Yeah, like any CPF investment,
Yes.
the same rules apply.
Yep. Yeah, I just heard this yesterday, which I want to ask you. Okay, so the concept is that everything that we invest in financial instrument using our CPF must all go back to CPF. Okay, so you use to buy stocks, the dividends, the capital gain, all long term go back to CPF, right? I'm actually okay with that. But why not house? House, you use a CPF to buy house, and then you generate rental. Why don't you go back to CPF? Or when you buy a house, you make capital gain, right? Why don't capital gain go back to CPF?
Housing asset is you should look at it as a different asset because the consideration and the rules are very different. If you buy an investment, right, say, then you can decide you want to use cash for the investment or you want to use a CPF. In a house, typically you use both. You use cash and you use CPF. So it's a more complicated.
Yeah.
There's a lot of allocation. How do you decide how much of it is in the CPF, how much is it in the house or from cash? So the rules will be different.
So if you can figure out something, your hair will be like mine. Won't have so much hair. Yeah. So okay, that's fine. That's a great question. Okay. How would you advise a young adult to start on the power of compounding interest? Okay. So now we have a lot of interest. Now, does it matter? Does it now we have got bonds, we got fixed D, we got S&P 500, we got stocks and shares. We got so many options, including even property, right? So does it matters now when your age profile is when you're young, just started working, versus as someone that is like your age or my age, about 40, 50 years old, versus someone who is retiring in 65 or 70? Does it make a difference?
On the last point, yeah, that is a very important consideration in terms of your asset allocation. And generally, as one ages, your risk profile ought to decrease. Means you should have more of it in the safe monies than in the risk money, because your runway is shorter. You can less afford to take the up and down of the risk markets. So that's a general rule. On the point about starting early and how to do that, first, if there are parents out there, you have to be financially literate yourself, right? And then you can then try to impart financial literacy to your children, which I think is very important. And don't underestimate the ability of children to understand all these financial matters. Start with something simple first, right? I think
the CPF, the 1.05 times and the one I teach young kids also love it. Yeah. Okay.
See, I find that with all these financial matters, you have to learn a little bit of mathematics, right? But not that a lot. You don't need to have a degree in mathematics to understand.
He has basics. A degree in mathematics. That's why he's smarter than me. Yeah.
No, you don't need that. Yeah. But I find that actually Singaporeans they are very good in mathematics. A lot of our test scores compared with worldwide very good. But after they graduate, then they want to have nothing to do with mathematics. Traumatized by all the
sine,
maths and all that.
Sine, cosine, integration,
which is a pity, because I think basically what you need is how to add, subtract, multiply, divide, equal. Can already learn a bit of percentages. And it's not too difficult to teach children. When you go shopping with them, go marketing, teach them about add one apple to another apple, how many apples. Start with the basics when they are a toddler, right? Start to get them interested in the numbers. And I think children naturally very curious. They want to learn, and you make it interesting. Don't make it dry. then you can move on to more conceptual stuff. And I think then this is where like the CPF is a good place that I think even if you are a primary school student, it's not beyond a typical primary school student to understand some simple multiplication kind of thing and introduce them to this concept of compounding that 4% 18 years you get double the amount. So it's easy because you remove the element of the volatility from the equation. It's a guaranteed rate, and you have $100. After 1 year, if you're earning 4%, you get $104, and then so on. So I think at a fairly young age, you can appreciate that. And of course, later age, then try to introduce them to the financial markets, stock markets, and so on. And they don't, I would say generally don't underestimate the ability of our children to pick up all these things.
So your kid, financial know-how, you have responsibility, okay? If they don't understand, ask them to come to our live stream and watch, okay? But actually, my live stream quite complicated also. But basically, get them to teach. Actually, I've got a lot of parents say, I bring my kids in to watch your show, they love it because I always like a joke, yeah. But okay, so next question, okay? Will we ever go back to environment of interest rate goes back to low, zero? You say the last 20 years was an anomaly, but it lasted 20 years. Right? So you have Federal Reserve say, don't worry, Uncle Jerome Powell here, Limpei is going to whack the inflation and go back to normal. So will that kind of environment, will we ever, in your opinion, return back to environment?
Oh, very hard to say. Who knows what the world is like in future? And look at what's happening in Ukraine with oil prices and all that. So, if anything, I think we are looking at a world that is much more volatile, much more uncertain than what we have been used to.
Yeah. So do you subscribe to the fact right now that I did a few talks on property recently, and I asked this question. Do you think the property market will go down, go up, flat, that kind of thing in this kind of environment? Do you have a view on this? Because across the world, every property market is crashing, but Singapore, number one, the government go out to tell every foreigners, please come here, okay? I got a nice job for you, I welcome you. And everybody come in, buy up houses. Wow, the Chinese, one buy is, whole block, the kind of thing, right? So those kind of provide support, right? Then the rental market is so high. And next, the mortgage, walao, shoot to the roof. The interest rate is so high, 4.5%, now going to maybe 5.5, 6.5, or, some kind of level, and then mortgage payment is so high. So one force cause the price to go up, one force cause the price to go down. Do you have a view, or you want to tell our audience whether don't worry, 包价 investment in property, or you can say be very careful right now, you all don't sell, now it's dangerous. Do you have a view on this?
I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know where you go. If I do, I'll be rich by now. But I would say the property is a very complicated product, arguably even more complicated than stock investment or mutual fund. And because it is not just about the financial considerations. If you're talking about the property for to live in, then it's also a very social thing. It's a family thing. You got to work with the rest of your family members. Do you like the environment? Do you like your neighbors, and so on? So it's a very multifaceted issue that cannot be just dependent on the economic conditions when you make a decision to buy and sell properties. So in general, I would think it's probably a good thing, especially in Singapore, with a government that encourages home ownership. Good to have a property that you stay in, as opposed to renting a property and not owning one. Some people advocate that, but currently, right, you try to rent a property, people have been describing to me that the rental market has gone crazy. It's very, very difficult, and you don't want to be in the kind of situation where you don't know in a few months' time where you'll be living. I was trying to look for a rental unit for a relative, and it's just so difficult. So generally a good idea that you have a place you can call home or for a long run that you own, and right with it. In the long run, like any financial markets, generally they should do well lah.
Okay. So there's a question. This is more technical. I'll two questions in one go. Can before someone turn 55 years old, can they invest their OA after setting aside $20,000 in FD? Okay. This is a bit of a weird question. Des, I think, asked this question. I think conceptually, maybe you should explain to people how much of it can we invest and how much we gotta keep into the CPF.
Can I take that question first?
Yes.
So basically, the CPF investment scheme rules is that for the ordinary account, you cannot invest the first 20,000. So
Why?
Amounts above that, then you can invest. So if there are FD products out there for you to invest, so you can do so. So it is tied to the extra interest rate policies that the government give. We talk about the 2.5% for the OA and the 4% for the other accounts. Those are base interest rates. That means you get these amounts in the various accounts, but over and above that, the government gives extra interest, 1% for the first 60,000. If you are above 55, another percent for the first 30,000. So it doesn't, for those monies, then you really ought to be trying to maximize the interest, right? Since the government is there. Since the government gives this extra interest, so the policy is set so that to facilitate most of the members getting this the full benefit of the extra interest lah.
I see. And the next question is that if someone is more than 55 years old, has more than ERS in the RA, okay, an existing investment using OA, is there any way to transfer the investment out of OA without liquidating?
Yeah, you can you transfer the
OA. The investment already in OA can transfer the investment out of OA without liquidating.
Transfer to where?
I suppose in cash. If I bought some instrument using OA, okay, now I already fill up my ERS already. Technically, I can withdraw every amount if they're in cash, right? But because I already bought them in OA, do I need to sell them first, put them into OA, take out in cash, then buy again these assets so that they are become non-CPF?
I don't think you need to do that. I think you can transfer it over so they become a cash investment effectively.
Yeah, automatic process or?
No, you have to make an application lah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think you check the CPF rules. I think it can be done.
Wow, this is a new thing to me. I didn't know that also. So in theory, if all my endowus investment, which right now it's almost closing to $1 million already, using OA, the minute I turn 55, as long as I meet my FRS requirement, okay, the CPF minimum sum, all this technically can become cash.
You're testing my CPF rules.
I finally got one question that he don't know. He's the walking dictionary of CPF. I never have a question he don't know one.
I believe you can do so. Effectively, you are closing the CPF IS investment account. So when you do so, they can transfer it, say, over to the CDP, your holdings in the various investment that you make using CPF.
Okay. So do you still encourage people to do a voluntary housing refund? Do you encourage people to do voluntary housing refund?
Well, if you do so, then what the advantage is?
So first of all, maybe explain what is voluntary housing refund. Sorry.
So most people would use their CPF for their housing, whether to buy for the down payment or to make the mortgage payment.
Yes.
Then if you sell your property, you have to return back what you have taken out with interest. However, you don't have to sell, and then what you can do is you can do a voluntary housing refund. That means you put back earlier what you have taken out, and when you do so, then what you put back, then you earn the OA interest rate at least 2.5%. So then the issue is comparing what you intend to do, voluntary housing refund on one hand, earning say 2.5% versus an alternative lah. If you can have a higher alternative, right, and I think there are plenty of options out there right now, then this will be a more attractive option. So say instead of doing a voluntary housing refund, you put your money in a fixed deposit that now earns 3.8% or whatever. It's better than 2.5%. So when should those opportunities cease in future, no such attractive option, then you go and do your voluntary housing refund. So I'll say at the moment, it's not voluntary housing refund is probably not one of the more attractive options.
Which also means because the question of accrued interest come in. Okay, first of all, maybe explain a little bit of accrued interest. So which basically means that there is no incentive now to pay back the accrued interest, right?
Accrued interest is the interest that you have earned had you not withdrawn the money in the first place. So this policy of having to put back what you've taken out plus accrued interest is basically to equalize the situation, right? As if you have not taken the money back, taken money out for housing in the first place. Because ultimately the CPF is for your retirement, so you have no use for housing, then the funds is then meant for your retirement lah. So, but if you are not intending to sell your property, you don't have to worry about the accrued interest. There's no need for you to the government doesn't compulsorily require you to put back the accrued interest. And even if you put back, it's still your money, you still earn the interest rate.
Okay. The first 20,000 in OA gets 1% extra. Does this extra interest go to OA or SA?
A bit of a clarification first. It is not the first 20,000 of your OA. It is the first $60,000 of your combined CPF balances with up to at most 20,000 from the OA. It's a bit of a complication in the formula, but essentially you don't have to worry. You get that 1%. That 1% will go into your SA if you are below 55 and the RA if you are above 55.
Okay, so the full retirement sum, which is like CPF minimum sum, every year has been rising, and the rise is pegged to the inflation rate. Now the inflation rate is so high, so the full retirement sum should go up even much higher, right? Because inflation right now is, I don't know, Singapore 5, 6, 7%. So our full retirement sum should go up by 5, 6, 7%, right? Which basically means that a lot of people at 55 years old, actually it's a good thing, because we want to put more money into our SA so I can get more 4%. So there'll be one group of people that can't pay, that I cannot get more money out, and the group of people say, good, now I can put money. But is that true or not true? The part where the peg to inflation.
There's some consideration on the inflation in the policy on pegging of the full retirement sum, but it's not so tied to the actual interest rate. So I think the government has set out the latest policy. The full retirement sum goes up, if I remember correctly, about 3.5% per annum. So until there's any revision, that's what you expect that next year's full retirement sum will be 3.5% higher than this year's full retirement sum.
Oh, so it's fixed already?
For the next few years.
I see. So it doesn't matter our inflation rate high or low, that thing.
But for future years, when the government reviews the policy, it will take into account the inflation that's been experienced. So if we experience a persistently high inflation rate over many years, then probably you can expect that in future years the full retirement sum increases may be higher.
Okay. There's an interesting question here, which I think there's a conceptual issue with accrued interest. So what about, because a lot of people are very scared of accrued interest, so they want to rush back, pay back, because like 我欠政府钱, that kind of thing, right? So what about return the money to get rid of the accrued interest first, then take that money in CPF to go and invest in something?
You can do so. You have that flexibility to do so.
But what if I just go and use the cash and just invest? It's like instead of doing like that, might as well go straight like that.
Yeah, any difference? No difference to me, except that you have that psychological safety of zeroing out your accrued interest. But like I said, to me, it's not necessarily a bad thing having the accrued interest. You are not forced to put back if you don't sell your property. And even if you sell and you have to put the accrued interest into your CPF, it's still your money.
Yeah. So don't have this logic that accrued interest is 你欠政府的. That one is 你欠你自己的. You owe yourself. Okay? You owe down yourself one. So it's not that I had a rush to pay up the accrued interest so that, you know, if not, that thing will accumulate until some very big number, okay? Because by the time you reach 55, so you just pay back old money and then you can take back your money again. So it's you know, in military term called LPPL. So
and think of the amount you use for housing, from amount of CPF you use for housing plus accrued interest as another flexibility for you. You have the flexibility of this amount of money for putting it back to the CPF. You wish. If you don't need to do anything. So in that sense, the bigger your accrued interest it is, the more flexibility you have.
Okay. Okay. So the next question I have is maybe conceptually right now I've been promoting the 1M65 movement. Top up your SA, top up your MA, takam muamua, you know, and let it compound over, you know, to your retirement and then become millionaire, right? That kind of thing. But in this high interest environment, does it still make sense to you?
Ultimately, whether it's your 1M is in the CPF or it's in the T-bills or any other product, it's still your money, right? Ultimately, it is your total net worth that matters. Whether it is in the CPF or in other investment, then it's what is the best investment at that moment for your funds to be at. So I think it is a very good concept. Your innovation to come up with this idea of a 1M65, that it definitely provides a good safety net. The CPF is not just the only safety net that out there. T-bill is effectively another form of good safety net. It's also guaranteed by the Singapore government. So in a sense, you can say no difference. So long as the
liquidity,
money is there, that is safe, it's better still if it's guaranteed, then and you have the assurance that this money that forms your safety net will not be subjected to a lot of fluctuation. Then you have that confidence, right? I think that's what you're preaching, that you can have confidence to invest your other monies, and it gives you that good emotional ballast for your investment.
Okay. Hey guys, give like, very important. Now, one thing I do want to take note is that you know is for some people the flexibility is a good thing. For some people flexibility is a bad thing. Okay, I have a story of this I told before. Maybe I'll tell again. One auntie, the one distant cousin, a distant auntie. Okay, the husband when young used to womanize and things like that. So the only way, and keep taking money away from family. So the only way she protected her whole family is to dump everything to CPF. Okay, dump everything to CPF. In fact, she forced it into SA because she know. I think a long time ago no cap one. Those 40, 50 years ago or something like that. I don't know. Long time ago no cap one. So she forced everything to SA because even in OA she feared her husband have ability to take out. So she forced everything to SA. She's not even educated. Don't know anything about compound interest. Turn out right now, by now she's like 70, 80 years old already. Nearly, I think 80, maybe over 80 years old. Turn out she got a huge amount of money right now. The husband is completely pokai because all the womanizing lost all the money. All the women suck him dry of all the cash. So now the wife, feng shui lun liu zuan, the fortune have changed. Now the wife called the shot. I got money. You gotta listen to me. So for some people, having liquidity is a good thing. Some people having liquidity, your hand may be itchy, go and invest, then after lose money. So you gotta think for yourself. Conceptually, it should be the same. 4% here at SA, 4% in FD, same. But the liquidity can play to your advantage or disadvantage. 你好好的去想. Okay? Cool? Yeah. Yes, the wife is richer now. It's so funny. Okay? Okay, so Okay, let me quickly, let's take maybe another 4 or 5 questions. Sorry, I dropped my glasses. Aiya. Okay, why CPF don't allow OA to invest in SSB?
I think it's something that within the government they can work out between I suppose MES and CPF board.
Conceptually, nothing wrong, right?
No, nothing wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. So, I've maxed out my ERS. Can I still top up to my ERS given that FRS increases every year?
Yes, you can. So the ERS increase every year. So with the increase, then you can top up the difference from what you have. It's a very good thing. If you want to have more payouts, then you top up every year in tandem with the increase in the ERS.
Okay. Okay, I'm trying to get. I missed out a few questions. So let's take another last few questions. Hurry up. Fire your question in so that I can get your questions to Mr. So. Okay. I missed out some because very difficult to. How long will T-bill last? I think it's the tenure.
For each tranche, the MES will specify. The most common one is a 6 months T-bill. That's issued, I think, every 2 weeks. Then every 3 months, I think the MES, the practice has been to issue T-bills that is of 1 year duration.
When we top up our CPF, can we specify which account to go in? That means this money is for SA, this money this time is for RA, yeah.
So there are a few schemes that the CPF allows such voluntary monies to go into the system. If you are doing, you can specify that you go in for retirement purposes. That means if you are below 55, this monies will go into your special account. And if you are above 55, then you go into your retirement account. So this is called the retirement sum topping up scheme, or the RSTU. Then there's another scheme which will allows your money to go directly into the MediSave. So if you are thinking more of your healthcare needs and you want to have the monies there, whether it's to buy hospitalization insurance or long-term care, or for hospitalization expenses, then you can specify, you can put the money in under that scheme, which is called a voluntary contribution into the MediSave. There's also another one which is called the voluntary contribution, and if you put in the money, you'll be allocated to your various accounts, your OA, SA, and MA, in the same proportion as if they were contribution from working.
Okay. I'm in my mid-30s, about 30K more to reach my max SA. Should I keep contributing 8K to get the maximum tax relief, or delay so to get the 8K tax relief so as to give me more absolute tax relief in 40s?
Wow, then you have to do the calculation yourself, which one
more
makes sense. But it's not just whether you at which point you get more tax benefit, right? If you contribute earlier, I think you're probably thinking that your tax bracket probably be higher later on when you're earning more, so it may be more advantageous to top up later, so that you're getting more tax relief. But on the other hand, if you put in earlier, you're getting the SA interest, you're enjoying the SA interest, so it may be better to top up earlier. Of course, there's also this possibility that with this amount that you have now, you invest it in something else other than the SA, if it is earning at least the same rate as SA, and then later on when you are older, then you top up in the RA, then your tax bracket is higher. So you have to do the calculation yourself.
Okay. Intuitively, if you are young, your tax rate, your tax bracket should be low, but she's mid-30s is quite young. Your tax bracket won't be so high. And the compound interest is very high. If I, in your position, without knowing the actual numbers, I will rush in to fill it out first. Okay, intuitively. Okay. Okay, I'm going to ask the last few questions. My mom is 62 this year. She has not met her BRS. Does topping up to 65 help her with payout?
Oh yeah, of course.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have you put in more, then your payout will increase.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Okay. Yeah, you know why I do this or not? First of all, I keep a record. Second is I cannot see. I cannot see. My eyes is my eyes failing me. Okay, Mr. Lu, is it wise to invest in ETF now since the price is cheaper? You know, I suppose it's compared to investing in to high interest you know, fixed D and bonds. What's your view?
I thought it's asked Mr. Lu.
I know you're gonna say that. I know you're gonna say that. But you know, I'll ask your view first. Then I give my view. How about that? Okay.
Generally, one should have a safe spot and one should can have a risk spot. So if this is in your risk spot, then you want to invest in an ETF. Why not? It's a good idea not to try to time the market and invest consistently over time. And I like the ETFs or index funds that generally will be able to, over the long run, give you the market returns and doesn't require you to bet on specific markets or fund managers. So it's I know a lot of people, of course, all of us want to get rich, want to squeeze the most out of our money and so on. But you have to also think in terms of the time that you may need to spend in order to do all the research and so on, and whether you have the expertise. So actually, I like the investing in a lazy way, right? That I don't have to do too much work, and I know I have the confidence that over the long run, it will deliver me decent returns. I don't need to squeeze out every last drop of a return out of my money, because there are many other important things in my life that I want to do, right? So if I spend all the time investing, trying to research the markets, I don't have time for all that. So I mean, this is a finance talk, we're talking about money, but ultimately time is the other very important scarce resource that all of us have, and arguably even more important than money, because as we age, our time gets shorter. Remaining time we have on earth gets shorter and shorter.
Yeah. So this is a very important. This is a very important quotation. Time is arguably the most important asset in your life. Okay, very important. Thanks, Yu Ting. Yeah. Those questions on specific what to buy or whatever, you can ask our Telegram group. There's a lot of people there very supportive and ask. Okay, I'm going to make use of his time here to ask those very profound questions. Just now there's a lady who says this. If I have now some cash savings and I fully paid up my 5-room flat, okay, and got some money in investments, is that okay? Yeah.
Why not? Depends on your situation. It's a very good position, right? To be in at that stage. You have a 5-room flat. It's already paid out, and you have some investment. Sounds okay to me. Unless without knowing the specifics.
Can I top up RA after age 70?
Yeah, you can.
You can?
Every year as the retirement sum amount goes up, then you can top up the difference.
So I didn't know that. I thought only up to 70 they force you to start taking out already.
You have to start your payouts by 70, but you still have that flexibility to top up even after 70.
Does it make sense to do it?
Why not? You top up, then your payout will increase. Yeah. If you have spare money and those monies, and it's a good what the RA interest rate represent a good return, so why not?
Mr. Lu, this one I also want to answer. Okay, should I make a voluntary housing refund to OA, then transfer that to SA?
You can, or you can also do a RSTU directly to SA.
No, but when he do that, he pay up the accrued interest first. Then at least got the 心理放心 this accrued interest one. Then he move from there. rather than go direct.
On the other hand, if you put the cash directly in the SA, you get the tax relief. Whereas if you do the housing refund, you don't get the tax relief.
Cinghu sibei kiang you where got can makan in every place one, okay? Yes, you can't yeah. So very very smart, okay?
No longer Jinghu lah.
Ex Jinghu. I mean when he was in Jinghu, okay? Yeah, those things. Okay, so for CPF Life, must I decide my option by age 65 or I can defer to 70?
Yeah, you have between 65 to 70 to decide on your payout, and you decide the plan when you want to start a payout. So it's between 65 to 70 years.
My mom is more than 70 years old now. She has some money in OA and SA. Should I transfer it to RA?
You can.
But should. Should.
It depends on your situation. If you want to have a higher payout, then transferring will do that. If you want to keep the money there for sort of like as an emergency fund, then it's a good idea because assuming you already met your mom has already met the retirement sum requirement, you can take the money out from the SA or OA and anytime you want.
But no, well, one is you buy a reverse annuity, right?
An annuity.
An annuity, sorry. One you buy the annuity,
Yeah.
and the other one is you kaki draw out.
Yeah.
So here there's an element of whether you live long or live short. So actually one of the element is if your mom thinks that she's going to live long, then makes sense.
In theory, correct, but
Yeah.
very difficult to engage in this conversation.
If your mom health is okay, exercise a lot, walk every day, very active, social life very good, RA taka muamua, that's the thing, right? And then juice it out, right? Okay. After 65 years old, money in O and SE can take out.
Actually, it's after 55. So long as you meet the retirement sum requirement, that means you have the full retirement sum. Any monies in the SA and the OA, you can take it out anytime you want.
Okay. So I think it's 1.5 hours already. I think I've juiced him quite a lot already. But I think the most important key takeaway is that in a high interest environment, okay, in high interest environment, you need to exercise a bit more thinking in how to exploit certain instrument, okay? The fundamentals does not change in 1965, although the instrument that you pick may differ, okay? I think this high interest environment gives us some opportunities in life that now more options are open for. So it is for savers, it's a wonderful environment, okay? For borrowers, I suppose you want to exercise a bit more care, okay, in doing that. And any last words for our audience, Mr. So?
Wish everybody the best as you navigate your financial life. But to me, life is more than just money. So think carefully about your time on earth and how to make good use of your time.
One non-financial question right now is how you retire very early leh. People retire at 65, you retire at 54, right? So maybe help us think of some thought process. Why would you retire so early, you know? Is it because you 赚夠了, you know, 食未了, that kind of thing, right? Why you retire? Your hair still have, your hair haven't turned black, haven't even turned white. Yeah, see, look at me, I got to go and zing, you know? Yeah. So why you retire so early?
So it's back to this issue of time and money, right? Which to me represent
very important question,
represent the two very important resources that we have, and how to optimize this. The thing about money is, of course, money then depends on how you do your planning, how you accumulate and how you decumulate. But with money is actually in a good scenario, your money pot can keep growing. And even you spend, you can still be, your net worth can still be increasing. So there's actually no limit to it if you are good about it. However, the consideration for time is very different. Unless you are, I don't know, unless you are God, right? Each of us has a limited time span. We know on average how long it is, roughly 80 years, 85 or so, and it's increasing. But that's the average. And anytime, any of us can go any day, right?
Not me.
We may some of us may live up to 120, right? Some tomorrow it may be bye-bye. So that is that uncertainty of life. So then I would think that we have to think very carefully about what we do in with our time lah. And a lot of things which are important, I would dare say for a lot of us, we tend to procrastinate, right? Should we be making our will? Should we be doing what LPA, do our CPF nomination? You ask people will say it's important, but a lot of us, I believe, are guilty of procrastinating. Should we be exercising more, right, so that we are healthy, right? So do spare sufficient time to think about this issue. But basically for me, I could have continued working, but I consider my option, and I think the marginal return of trying to work a few more years doesn't quite outweigh, right, what I can do with my time if I free them up and I want to make my time, my remaining time on earth worthwhile and use it meaningfully. That's why I make that decision.
Wow. So remember, I think this is a key takeaway, right? So that time is one of our asset that is most limited. Okay, so make good use of it. Okay, especially when we're still in our prime. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a round of applause, a huge blast of love and light. Okay, to Mr. So, thanks for coming in, give us some coaching. Okay, and give us this uplift in our wisdom. Okay, yes. Okay, so thank you, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for participating as an audience in this, and wonderful questions you ask. We all iron sharpen iron, right? We all get smarter when you ask those questions, right? So we want to thank everybody. Okay, so let's give a round of applause. Hit a like, especially in YouTube, and please follow us very closely in both Premium More and on Facebook, and incidentally, Premium More, we are probably the only channel that teach you not just how to spend money but also how to make money. Okay, it's a very weird combination. Until now, my wife and I still cannot figure out why we ever do that. Okay, yes. Okay, so thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, thank you, Chai Ling. Thank you, Bilan. Okay, thanks everybody on YouTube as well. Okay, this camera a bit far, I cannot see the names. Yeah. Okay, thank you everybody. Thank you. About 700-800 of you all here. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Okay, thank you. Okay, have a good weekend. Okay, spend good time with your family. All right, and yeah, one can have enough money, but we always run on time. Yeah, like this also good time. Okay, thank you. Good night. Okay, good night everybody. Okay, Jackie, good night to you. Okay, good night. Okay, good night, and good night. Hold on. Okay, wait.